In a small, vibrant village, nestled between the lush hills of East Africa, there lived a woman named Nyasha, renowned for her wisdom and kindness. She was often sought out by her fellow villagers for advice or assistance. Nyasha had a rare gift. Her womb was fertile, even when many other women struggled to conceive. This led to her becoming a surrogate mother, a role deeply rooted in the village's tradition of community and shared responsibility. One day, a wealthy couple from a neighboring village, Jabari and Zuri, approached Nyasha with a desperate plea. They had been married for several years but had been unable to bear children. Having heard of Nyasha's gift, they asked her to help them bring a child into the world. Moved by their heartfelt request, Nyasha agreed on the condition that she would give the child to them immediately after birth, according to the village's customs. The agreement was simple. Nyasha would carry the child for 9 months, and once the child was born, she would relinquish all maternal rights to the couple. In return, Jabari and Zuri would ensure that the child was well cared for, receiving love and protection from their family. They swore this solemn oath before the village elders, and the pact was sealed. As the months passed, Nyasha grew closer to the life stirring within her. She marveled at the fluttering kicks and the rhythm of the heartbeat. She began to sing lullabies at night, feeling a bond that grew stronger each day. Though she reminded herself constantly that the child was not hers to keep, her heart had already begun to weave threads of attachment. On a clear morning, just as the sun bathed the village in golden light, Nyasha went into labor. The entire village gathered outside her home, singing and chanting, offering their prayers for a safe delivery. Jabari and Zuri were also present, their faces filled with anxious hope as they awaited the birth of their long-desired child. Nyasha labored for hours, her body racked with pain, but she held on with the strength of a lioness. Finally, a healthy baby boy entered the world, his cries piercing the air and filling the hearts of everyone present with joy. Nyasha, exhausted but triumphant, held the newborn in her arms, gazing into his tiny face. In that moment, Nyasha felt a deep, overwhelming connection to the child. The baby's soft brown eyes blinked up at her, and his little fingers curled around her thumb. Despite her promise, she felt an inexplicable bond to the child, as if they were bound by an invisible cord that could not easily be severed. Jabari and Zuri rushed forward, tears streaming down their faces as they beheld their son for the first time. Nyasha, though conflicted, handed the child to them. Yet as she watched them cradle the baby in their arms, something in her heart twisted. She turned away, tears pooling in her eyes. That night, as the village celebrated the new life, Nyasha sat alone in her hut. The sound of the baby's cry echoed in her mind, and she could not shake the feeling that something was being taken from her, a part of her soul. The question loomed large. Had she made a mistake in agreeing to let the child go? Over the next few weeks, Nyasha found it increasingly difficult to distance herself from the child. Jabari and Zuri visited her frequently, seeking advice on how to care for the baby. Each visit became a test of her resolve. Nyasha found herself instinctively comforting the child, singing him to sleep, and watching over him as though he were her own. Though Zuri was a loving mother and tried her best to bond with the child, it was clear that the baby was most calm when in Nyasha's arms. He recognized her scent, her voice, and her warmth. This only deepened the bond between them, making it harder for Nyasha to keep her distance. Rumors began to swirl in the village. Some villagers whispered that Nyasha had grown too attached to the child, while others speculated that the baby's spirit had chosen her as his true mother. The elders, who had witnessed many such surrogacies over the years, became concerned. They called Nyasha to a private meeting, reminding her of the promise she had made and urging her to respect the sacred pact. Despite their counsel, Nyasha's heart was torn. She could not shake the feeling that she had been given this child for a reason, that the bond they shared was deeper than mere biology. She wrestled with her conscience every night, knowing that breaking the pact would bring shame upon her, but the thought of living without the child felt unbearable. One evening, Nyasha decided to visit the child one last time. She told herself it would be her final goodbye before stepping aside completely. But when she arrived at Jabari and Zuri's home, the child reached for her, crying out in a way that seemed to pierce her very soul. In that moment, Nyasha made a decision that would change everything. Nyasha's decision to reclaim the child shocked the entire village. Jabari and Zuri were heartbroken, accusing Nyasha of betrayal. They argued that they had honored their end of the bargain, and it was now Nyasha's turn to let go. The village elders were called upon to mediate, but the situation quickly escalated into a bitter conflict. Nyasha defended her actions by explaining the deep bond she shared with the child, a bond she claimed went beyond the physical act of surrogacy. She insisted that the child had chosen her as his true mother and that it would be a mistake to separate them. Jabari and Zuri, on the other hand, argued that they had a right to raise the child they had longed for and that Nyasha was trying to steal their happiness. The village elders, wise and measured in their approach, listened carefully to both sides. They understood the pain of Jabari and Zuri, but they also saw the sincerity in Nyasha's love for the child. The elders deliberated for days, trying to find a solution that would honor the traditions of the village, while also addressing the complex emotions at play. During this time, the village became divided. Some sided with Jabari and Zuri, believing that a promise was a promise, and that Nyasha was wrong to go back on her word. Others sympathized with Nyasha, arguing that motherhood was not just a contract, but an emotional and spiritual connection that could not be easily severed. Tensions grew, and it seemed that the once peaceful village was on the brink of conflict. As the village waited for the elders to reach a verdict, Nyasha spent every waking moment with the child. She knew that her decision to keep him could bring her great shame and possibly exile from the village. But in her heart, she could not deny the love she felt, nor could she imagine a life without the child by her side. On the day of the final council, the village gathered once more. The elders, grave and solemn, announced that they had reached a decision. They acknowledged the deep emotional bond between Nyasha and the child, but stressed the importance of keeping promises made in good faith. However, the elders also recognized that the child had indeed formed a strong connection with Nyasha, a connection that could not be ignored. In a surprising compromise, they decreed that Nyasha would remain an important figure in the child's life, serving as a second mother, but that Jabari and Zuri would retain primary custody. Though it was not the outcome Nyasha had hoped for, she accepted the elders' decision with grace. In the months that followed, she watched the child grow under the loving care of Jabari and Zuri, but she remained a constant presence in his life. Over time, the tension in the village eased and the child flourished, knowing that he had the love of not just one, but two mothers. In the end, the village learned that motherhood is not a simple matter of birth or promises, but of love, sacrifice, and understanding. Nyasha found peace in the knowledge that she had not lost the child entirely, and Jabari and Zuri were grateful for the role she continued to play in their son's life. Together, they created a new kind of family, one bound not by tradition alone, but by the deepest ties of the heart.
There are a lot of lessons to be learned from this story. I would love to hear your opinion in comment section. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and press the red button to subscribe to my channel. Bye.